Whatever it is, I just hope that some people have walked away thinking, hey, Superman's pretty cool. I want to get into Superman comics. Unfortunately, getting into them can be a bit daunting at first. This is DC Comics. You want a straightforward story beginning to end? Take your sensitive ass back to Crunchyroll. In this house, you need at least 30 years worth of comic knowledge to understand a single page. Okay, I'm exaggerating. But even when the comics try to accommodate new readers, a lot of people will still be put off by all of these different characters and references and stuff that hasn't happened in any of the movies. You'll pick up a comic, probably one of the more recent ones, and think, hang on a minute, Superman is married to Lois and has a son? When did that happen? And there are all these older comics from the 80s or the 50s even. So is that the same Superman we've got now? Is it all one big timeline? Or are there different universes? What do you mean it's both? So, over a year ago, I set out to read every single mainline Superman comic ever published, and I've managed to condense it all into this video. I want to give the people something that's more than just a wiki page, or a mindless recap of the most popular stories. I want to give you the big picture. I'll show you how it all fits together, why all of it matters, while at the same time showing you that, while it is technically one big story, you don't have to worry about it. You can just jump in anywhere and you'll be fine. Who's ready for Jimmy Olsen's gorilla wedding? Superman's origin is pretty well known. Born on Krypton, sent off into space before the planet explodes, lands on Earth where he gets adopted by the Kents. They name him Clark, raise him to be a good guy, to use his powers for good. One of them might then die of a heart attack, or in a car crash, or a tornado, or there's one version where there were bank robbers who were killed in a police chase. Point is, Clark goes on to make his parents proud, both as a reporter for the Daily Planet, and of course, as Superman. However, in 1938, when the very first version of Superman was created, all of these concepts and details had yet to be developed. The original version of the story, by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, featured a distant, unnamed planet mysteriously destroyed by old age. When Clark arrives on Earth, he's not discovered by his loving foster parents, but instead taken to an orphanage where he scares the living crap out of everyone. In the very next panel, he's all grown up, he can do all this powerful stuff, and boom, he's Superman. This happens in a page. Superman is the champion of the oppressed. When an innocent woman is about to be executed, Superman breaks into the governor's house and demands that she be pardoned. When he catches a guy beating his wife, Superman gives him a taste of his own medicine. Sometimes he does go a bit too far. When he catches some guys gambling, he's like, if you don't leave the city, I'm gonna end your life with my own hands. Gambling is just as bad as murder. Whatever you say, Superman. This first story also marks the first appearance of the reporter Lois Lane, who can't stand her awkward, cowardly co-worker Clark. In a typical adventure, Clark will ask Lois out on a date. She says yes because she feels sorry for
I
him.
stopped playing
Lois
for
will
like
then end up ditching Clark, leading to
maybe a little
her
while, and now
kidnapping,
ended
from
up
which she is
goes
rescued
all the
by
way up.
Superman. Whoa, Superman! You came out of nowhere!
It's
Boy,
cool to
I
see
sure
that.
wish that idiot Clark Kent was more like you. Will you take me out on a
Shannon's really
date?
good.
No. Now, through a modern lens, this formula is very cliche. The plots are simplistic, with characters saying out loud exactly what they're thinking at all times. But you have to remember, this was revolutionary at the time. These guys invented the formula. The style of storytelling is simple, yeah, but what's wrong with that? It's honest and charming and oddly comforting, seeing these stories from over 80 years ago dealing with the same issues we have today. Trying to give people hope in a time where it all seemed like the world was going to end. It's also worth mentioning that while these early stories are very enjoyable, they can also be confusing as hell. Like I said, DC is known for its convoluted, ever-changing continuity, but back in the 30s it was on a whole other level. I mean, they truly did not give a shit. Superman's first adventures are in Cleveland, of all places, and then out of nowhere they're like, oh, it was actually Metropolis the whole time. One minute he works at the Daily Star, then it's the Daily Planet, but it's also sometimes the Daily Star again. Sometimes his boss is George Taylor, then it's Perry White. I mean, hey, it's not like anyone's paying attention. We can change things. It's not like one day it's going to be the most famous comic book to ever exist. Now, a lot of these changes are because of the radio show that was being broadcast at the time. This began not long after the comics did, and so any elements that were introduced in the radio show themselves, like Krypton, for example, they would just add it straight to the comics. Because of this, Superman's abilities quickly evolved from his first appearance. Before, he could just jump really high, but soon he properly takes flight, and by the issue 60 mark, he's flying between Earth and Mars in seconds. He gets other powers, such as super shouting. He's able to focus his eyes hypnotically to swiftly and painlessly render people unconscious. He can also contort his facial features to become identical to another person. Shame he doesn't use that power more, that would have been really helpful down the line. Superman's origin story is fleshed out more, without totally contradicting that first version we got. Turns out Clark was discovered by the Kents after he arrived on Earth, only for them to pass him on to the orphanage, but then they're like, actually, we feel bad, can we have him back? And the guys running the orphanage are just so done with this weird baby, they're like, please, take him back. After raising Clark as their own, the Kents then die before Clark becomes a grown-up, leaving Clark inspired, but rather lonely as he goes off into the real world. At the same time, the series' supporting cast grows. We get to meet Jimmy Olsen, the office boy for the Daily Star, or Planet, it depends. Jimmy is a squeaky little shit. The only thing he's good for is doing crossword puzzles, running away, and I hate him. Anyways, for the most part, Superman fights regular humans, the corrupt rich, evil gamblers, etc. But occasionally we get a villain on the more wackier side. There's Mr. Mixus Bitalik, or as this original version is pronounced, Mixus Tipalik, who is a magical, reality-altering being from the fifth dimension who likes to play practical jokes on Superman and his friends. We have similarly goofy villains such as the Prankster, Toyman, Funny Face, all of whom have these ridiculous plans that never end up working. There is one villain, though, that I'm sure you've been waiting for. Superman's first ever nemesis, his ultimate foil, and that is Ultra Humanite, our first proper recurring villain, whose super intelligence is almost a match for Superman's strength. After escaping his first encounter with Superman, Ultra then spends the next bunch of stories trying to get his revenge and being an overall nuisance. It's actually really fun because you'll be reading an issue, right? Something completely unrelated is happening, and then it's like, oh shit, it's Ultra Humanite! He was behind it all along! It happens so many times in a row that you're almost disappointed when it doesn't end up being him, and when he does eventually die after getting caught in his own blast, it's like, man, I'm gonna miss this guy. We also get the story where Clark is sent to Hollywood on an assignment, and he tries to interview this famous actress. For some reason, this actress is being really weird. Like, one minute she's being really nice, the next she's really cold, and then she quits acting all of a sudden and starts hijacking this yacht full of her fellow celebrities, demanding a $5 million ransom. Clark is obviously confused, and so he goes to investigate, to rescue the people on board, and when he finally gets to confront this actress, he's like, why? Who could possibly possess you to do these things? And she's like, it's me, Superman. It's Ultra Humanite. That's right. I survived the blast with sheer adrenaline and mind swiped myself into this actress's body, all to attain my goal.
Get your ears ready. Got something really hot coming your way.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm not too big on any of the guns in the game right now. That pulse rifle's meh. I mean, it's cool for movement, but it's not great. Nemesis's accuracy is pretty off. The combat assault rifle is good. I should have just kept that one.
What's up, my comic comrades? Over the past 2 months, we've been having a blast retelling the Deceased story by Tom Taylor between 4 different episodes, each breaking down one of the 4 major titles in the series. Well, today we're bringing it all together to give you the complete Deceased saga from start to finish in one long-form video. So for those of you who like to listen to complete collected stories like a movie, this is for you, and we hope you enjoy it. Without further ado, we give you our complete retelling of the Deceased saga. The comic opens up with Superman having just broken Darkseid's jaw and the Justice League defeating Darkseid yet again after a long, grueling battle. Superman says, "You'll leave Earth, Darkseid, now." Batman then says, "You will not return to our world," with Wonder Woman following up saying, "The lasso of truth compels you." Then Darkseid replies, "I will not return. I have no need. For the truth is, I have what I came for," as he tears off Wonder Woman's lasso and throws it to the ground in a mic drop moment while returning to Apocalypse. We then learn that Cyborg is missing via Batman, as Batman secretly has a tracker on everyone in the Justice League without them knowing, because Batman. Of course, this raises some concerns with the League, but they didn't have time to get into it with Batman. We are then taken to Apocalypse, where we see what Darkseid came to Earth for. It was Cyborg, and one of Darkseid's elite, the sadistic torturer Desaad, has essentially crucified Cyborg to an apocalyptic-type torturing table. We then find out the reason for Cyborg's abduction. Desaad tells Cyborg that the almighty Darkseid already has half of the anti-life equation, but the other half has manifested on Earth, which he found. Cyborg asks where, and Darkseid walks in saying, "In you." Long story short, Desaad tells Darkseid Cyborg won't survive the extraction, so he calls upon Death, aka the Black Racer, to essentially prolong Cyborg's death to get the piece of the anti-life equation he needs. But Death corrupted and changed the equation, turning it into something else. Something horrific and deadly. Something that infected Darkseid and made him go crazy, clawing off his freaking face. Desaad then sends the now infected Cyborg back to Earth. To try to get rid of the problem, but it was too late. Darkseid starts going crazy and jumps into Apocalypse's core, unleashing all of his power, destroying himself and all of Apocalypse. After this, we see Cyborg return to Earth. Once he's done, his system is automatically online, and the anti-life equation leaped from him, Patient Zero, to the internet. Cyborg tried to firewall himself, cutting himself off from the world, but it was too late and the damage was done. And this is where we get an explanation of what exactly is going on. We learned that the anti-life equation began to spread as a techno-organic virus that attacked through social media as a disease that bridged the digital divide to the biological and infected the minds of all who saw it. And once infected, they would mindlessly share messages and tweet the equation, spreading it even more. The equation made people desperate and scared, so they tried to tear the equation from their heads, which is why everyone infected starts clawing off their faces before they're eventually enslaved by the equation. Meanwhile, Superman is talking to Mr. Miracle and Big Barda at their home, but having super hearing, he hears screaming from the city. So he flies off to see what's going on, only to find out the world is tearing itself apart. So of course, he immediately flies home to his apartment to warn Lois and John of this techno-organic virus. We are then thrown to Batman in his Batcave, who of course has the virus quarantined and all of his firewalls in place on his Bat computers, because again, Batman. He then runs diagnostics on how many people are infected, and we find out it's 600 million worldwide, and that at the current rapid rate, the virus will spread to almost every internet-connected device within days, infecting billions. Batman then realizes the internet connection hasn't been disabled in his mansion, only the Batcave. So when he goes to check on Alfred, he sees that Nightwing has been infected and is trying to tear Alfred and Bruce apart. But it gets worse, because he also sees that Tim Drake has been infected, and he tears a chunk out of Batman's arm. But it gets even crazier than that, because the final page of the comic shows Nightwing biting a piece of Batman's neck off. The second issue then picks up with Aquaman discovering an empty cargo ship in the North Atlantic Ocean. But he soon finds out the ship isn't empty and is infested with infected people who start attacking him, pushing him overboard into the water. We then see Metropolis on fire as Damian Wayne and Jonathan Kent look from a distance, and we also find out that Superman needs to go to Smallville to check on his parents. But Lois wants to go to the Daily Planet first. Then we get a scene where Harley is getting a pep talk from Ivy before she goes in to break up with the Joker. But when Harley goes in to dump Mr. J, we find out, before he turns around, that he's infected too. The comic then jumps to outside of Metropolis, where we see Black Canary, Green Arrow, and Hal Jordan Green Lantern camping. Anyway, we find out that Hal Jordan hates camping, so he ends up turning in early, going to his tent where he looks at his phone. And we know what that leads to. He becomes infected, blows up his tent with his ring, and starts attacking Green Arrow and Black Canary. So much so, it forces Black Canary's hand to use such an intense canary cry against him that it kills him in the process. Oliver is like, "What did you do?" Then the Green Lantern ring says, "Green Lantern of Sector 2814, deceased. Scanning for replacement. Replacement found. Diana Lance of Earth, you have the ability to overcome great fear. Welcome to the Green Lantern Corps." But skipping some stuff here and there, we are eventually brought back to Batman in the Batcave, who had put on one of Mr. Freeze's old suits to slow down his metabolism, which in turn slows down the spread of the virus within him. He then tells Superman, "Even though I slowed it down, the infection is soon going to take over." He goes on to tell Superman, "There's literally no time for sentiment, Clark. It's a technological biological hybrid that can be transferred through blood and through digital imagery. To save the world, you're going to have to destroy any human carriers, and you're going to have to take down the internet." After this, Batman goes on to tell his son Damian that he left something for him with Alfred, which is a briefcase that has the bat symbol on it, which we can only assume is a bat suit, having his son carry on his mantle. And right as Bruce is starting to give a sentimental speech to his son, he starts changing, clawing at his face, tearing off his helmet from the free suit. He then turns around to start attacking Alfred, but Alfred, who's been holding a shotgun this whole time, knowing what's inevitably going to happen, says, "Computer, cease transmission." So Damian didn't have to hear what was about to happen. Alfred then says, "It shouldn't have ended this way. Not for you. I'm sorry, son." And then bang! Alfred kills Bruce. Are you a fan of tabletop gaming? I am, and today's sponsor, Simon, has it covered with their awesome new game, DC Superheroes United. We've been raving about DC Superheroes United all month as they just launched their crowdfunding campaign on GameFound, and again, you just gotta check it out. Simon is like the king of board game crowdfunding, having raised over $110 million, bringing us some of the biggest fan favorite games. Well, in their latest game, DC Superheroes United, the greatest heroes in the DC universe unite to take on our favorite villains in this fast-paced, family-friendly cooperative game with really dope figures. And as we've said in the past, this game is perfect for 1 to 4 players, with each player controlling one DC superhero. And with each of these cool miniatures, they're designed so you can either leave them in their classic one-color design or hand paint them however you want.
They
Overall,
are
the game
actually
has
pretty
simple
cool.
rules, easy setup, and quick play time, which keeps the gameplay fast-paced and fun. And by backing DC Superheroes United on GameFound, you can score exclusive playable heroes and villains, which won't be available if you buy it at retail later on. So visit cmon.co/variant to back the campaign on GameFound today, or just click the link in our description to jump in on DC Superheroes United. And issue 3 gets even more gut-wrenching, as it literally opens up with Alfred looking at the Graysons and Drakes and Bruce's dead bloody bodies, with them saying, "My boys, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I couldn't save you." So Alfred hops into the Batwing with the
Definitely
briefcase
some
first
weird
to give
comments.
to Damian, and on the way to Damian starts
This one
mowing
was
down
good.
infected zombie people to let out some anger and frustration.
It was
Alfred's a
good,
freaking
but it was
boss.
dark.
We are then thrown back to Harley and the Joker, where we see Joker attacking her, but she quickly gets a hold of the situation by killing him with a shotgun blast to the stomach. Unfortunately, after this, zombie birds of prey show up and start attacking her, but she just says, "I guess we're bird hunting." Gotta love Harley. We are then shown that Aquaman is infected from being attacked in the previous issue and is now going after Atlantis. Jumping forward again, we see that Superman finally arrives home in Smallville to check on his parents. He quickly sees his mother and says, "Mom, where's Pop?" She tells him Jonathan's inside. "I hit him, Clark. He fell." Letting us already know, Soup's dad is infected. We then see Superman walking slowly inside the barn. His dad is locked in an underground basement, so Superman breaks the locks and opens the door to reveal his zombie-infected father, running out, starting to attack him. Superman, being Superman, easily but sadly just dodges and deflects his dad's attacks and catches his father's arms like it was nothing, slowly and sadly walking his dad down into the basement and then closing the door. Once the door is closed, he uses his heat vision to blast a beam through the door and kill his father. Then when he walks out of the barn, his mom looks at him like, "What happened?" while saying, "Clark?" But he just said, "It's time to go." And she says, "We can't just leave. This is our home. Your father." And he replies, "He isn't here, Mom. He isn't here." Talk about another gut-wrenching moment. Just completely nuts. Not only was Alfred forced to kill Bruce, having a father kill his son, in the next issue, Superman is forced to kill Jonathan, having a son kill his father. Issue 4 opens up with Amanda Waller and Captain Atom in Cadmus deep underground, waiting on Ray Palmer, aka the Atom. Palmer has shrunken down and went into someone who's infected to see if he could somehow reverse engineer and or stop the virus from spreading. And while they're waiting for him, it's taking Palmer longer than expected. And Waller's like, "We can't wait for him any longer. Plague Protocol C has been ordered." And we find out that Protocol C is having Captain Atom go to the most affected areas and eradicate all life down to the very last atom, killing the infection. He doesn't want to, but he does, and starts destroying those infected areas. If you're not aware, Captain Atom is essentially a living weapon. He's literally fueled by the quantum field. Anyway, while eradicating the infection, we see there's a problem with Captain Atom. Apparently, when Ray Palmer went inside of that infected woman, he too became infected, which is why he never came out of that woman, and instead somehow found a way to microscopically get inside of Captain Atom and seize the heart of a living weapon. After this, we see Superman arrive back in Metropolis with his mom, breaking the news to Lois and John that his father is gone. We see Superman arrive back in Metropolis with his mom, breaking the news to Lois and John that his father is gone. We also see that the other heroes like Black Canary, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, and so on are on top of the Daily Planet, still trying to get radio comms up so they can send a message to anyone out there who still isn't infected. And while they're doing this, Superman says, "I need to leave again. I need to get back out there and help people." Then Black Canary says, "We can't have you back out there. You're too great a threat if you were to be turned by seeing a screen." Superman replies, "I won't." And Canary's like, "How could you possibly know that?" And Superman says, "Because I've been using my X-ray vision from the nanosecond I worked out what was causing this." And that is one of many reasons why Superman is a boss. After this, Lois and gang get the radio comms up and send a message out to the world saying, "To all the uninfected, you are not alone. We are regrouping." The Justice League is gathering in Metropolis. Anyone with the power and means to get here, please get to the Daily Planet route, if it is safe and you are capable of doing so. After this, Superman and Black Canary, Green Lantern go out looking for anyone they can help. And wouldn't you know it, they spot Flash and Kid Flash. Flash says, "Bruce contacted us. We had to hide away from the world." Not very heroic, but if either one of us were to be infected, it would spell disaster. But Superman says, "I can move you safely." We then get a pretty epic panel of Harley Quinn being attacked by Catwoman, Huntress, Batgirl, and Batwoman. And she's holding them off with a shotgun until Poison Ivy steps in and crushes them into a bloody mess with her vines. We are then taken back to the rooftop of the Daily Planet, where Lois, Superboy, Robin, Green Arrow, and the others are hearing some pretty loud noises. And we see that it's an infected Giganta. And then Black Lightning says, "That's a really big zombie." So they all start fighting her off, but out of nowhere, the Batwing shows up and starts firing missiles at her. After a few shots, she's able to punch it out of the air, but then Superman, Flash, Kid Flash, and Black Canary arrive just in time, with Canary catching the Batwing with the Green Lantern construct. Superman then knocks Giganta out by flying right into her face, after which Cyborg uses his arm cannon to blow a hole right through her head, killing her once and for all. Superman's like, "Cyborg, what have you done?" Cyborg explains, "She wasn't alive. None of them are. We need to talk." After this, Damian runs towards what's left of the Batwing, yelling, "Father!" But Alfred gets out just saying, "Damian, I'm sorry, son. He said you were worthy of it, that he was proud of you, and that he should have told you that every day," as he gives Damian the Batsuit. After this, Cyborg better explains to the heroes what exactly is going on, saying they're not zombies, they're a blight. An extension of the anti-life equation. The blighted ones want to spread death, nothing more. As he's explaining all this, the heroes see Hawkgirl fall out of the sky, but Wonder Woman catches her saying, "What happened?" And Hawkgirl replies, "Captain Atom. He's turned. He's going to blow." And Superman says, "Where?" So Wonder Woman and Superman head to DC. But when they get there, it's too late. As the comic says, it was the most destructive explosion ever unleashed on the world. It was heard and felt across the planet. Washington was gone in an instant, and the blast kept growing. Baltimore crumbled, and finally, Metropolis did too. Okay, so that closes out issue 4, which is where the tie-in story, A Good Day to Die, comes in. The issue starts off with Big Barda and Mr. Miracle boom-tubing into Apocalypse as it's exploding with Big Barda telling Mr. Miracle, it's true, Apocalypse, the whole damn planet. Mr. Miracle replies, God is dead, as the caption says, a good day to die. Scott, aka Mr. Miracle, then tells Barda, Darkseid, the all-knowing, and he didn't know what he was doing? My father is gone, referring to his evil adopted father, Darkseid. Barda then asks, how do you feel? He replies, honestly, pretty good. And with that, she kisses him and then says, come on, we need to go back. We have to face what God unleashed on Earth. Back on Earth, we see Mr. Terrific has strapped an infected Captain Boomerang to his table in his lab, where he's performing tests on him to see what the heck this virus is doing and how it works. Mr. Terrific proceeds to voice record.
When something happens, you gotta go tell that 3.
This episode. Today's episode of Variant is brought to you by Domain.com. Today on Variant, I give you guys the long-awaited history of all the Lantern Corps. Welcome to Variant. We love comics more than I want to drive the Batmobile from Batman v Superman. Actually, that's probably a tie. I'm your host, Eris Quinones. One of the most requested history of episodes has been a history of all the Lantern Corps, which is what brings us to today's episode. So for all of you who wanted this episode for a while now, and have waited ever so patiently, here you go. Before I get into talking about all the corps, I just want to note that I have to cover 9 different Lantern Corps, so obviously I'm not going to be able to tell you every single thing about each corps. Of course, everything I do mention is going to be the main points you need to know, including telling you each of their oaths. So if I miss something, you now know why. Getting into it, all the Lantern Corps come from the emotional spectrum, which are the energies created by the emotions of sentient life, visible as different wavelengths of light. Now, that's just a brief summary of where all the corps and their powers derive from, but let's get into the actual corps, shall we? Let's start with the most popular of them all, the Green Lantern Corps. At the beginning of the universe, the population of the planet Malthus evolved into powerful and highly intelligent beings. They soon colonized a planet situated in the center of the universe, Oa. From then on, they called themselves Owens. After one of their own, the renegade Crone, performed an experiment that nearly annihilated all of creation, the Owens promised from that moment forward to combat evil throughout all regions of space, no matter how desolate, as the self-appointed Guardians of the Universe. The Guardians of the Universe eventually created the Green Lantern Corps around 3 billion years ago. And then, as most of you know, the Green Lantern Corps became an intergalactic police force dedicated to the promotion of order and democracy throughout the universe. Each Green Lantern member protects a sector of the universe, and it's their duty to defend it from any possible threat. The Green Lanterns wield green light, which is the power of will. So the stronger the wearer's will, the stronger the lantern's constructs become, and the stronger the lantern becomes overall. Now, of course, I can't forget the Green Lantern Oath, which sounds a little something like this. In brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power, Green Lantern's light. And as you'll see, all the other Lantern Oaths sort of follow the Green Lantern Oath format. Moving on, we have the Sinestro Corps and or the Yellow Lanterns. The Sinestro Corps is a mirror organization to the Green Lantern Corps. Its members are chosen from those who can instill great fear and are given Cordian yellow power rings. They are considered to be the evil equivalent of the Green Lantern Corps. After Sinestro's defeat at the hands of Hal Jordan and Kyle Rayner, Sinestro retreated to Cord, where he began building his own corps based off his yellow power ring and the power of fear, embodied by Parallax. The purpose of doing so was for Sinestro to form his own corps that would enforce his vision of order, of which he had always been at odds with the Green Lantern Corps during his time as a member. He built the Sinestro Corps in secret, recruiting beings from all sectors of the universe in the same way the Guardians of the Universe did for the Green Lanterns. And side note, having the power of fear is kind of freaking awesome, and when they made Scarecrow Yellow Lantern, I was like, yes, that. As for the Sinestro Corps Oath, it's definitely one of my favorites, and it's as follows. In blackest day, in brightest night, beware your fears made into light. Let those who try to stop what's right burn like his power, Sinestro's might. Next, we have the Lanterns of Rage, and they would be the Red Lanterns. They are a savage parallel of the Green Lantern Corps. The Red Lantern Corps is fueled by the light of rage. Their corps was founded by Atrocitus. He's one of the 5 surviving members of the massacre of Sector 666. Atrocitus anointed the Red Lantern in blood and harnessed the emotional spectrum's red light of rage. They're definitely one of the more popular corps out right now, and one of my favorites. They even have their own New 52 title, and somewhat recently they had Guy Gardner and Supergirl become a Red Lantern. But now you all want to know their oath, which is, with blood and rage of crimson red ripped from a corpse so freshly dead, together with our hellish hate we'll burn you all, that is your fate. Yeah, they're definitely one of my favorite Lantern Corps. Next we have the Orange Lantern Corps, the color of avarice or greed. The orange light has only one wielder, the thief Larfleeze. Larfleeze and the orange power battery are essentially just Gollum and his precious from the Lord of the Rings. Larfleeze jealously guards his precious treasure, living in complete isolation on the assumption that anyone he encounters is out to steal the orange light from him. The Guardians of the Galaxy negotiated a non-aggression pact with him a long time ago, stating he would never unleash the orange light on the universe in exchange for the Guardians leaving him alone, which led to the long-lasting prohibition of the Green Lanterns entering the Vega system, which is where he lives. However, this pact was eventually shattered, and Larfleeze, or Agent Orange as he likes to call himself, unleashed the terrible power of the orange light, which allows him to create deadly avatars of those he has slaughtered, allowing him to create entire Orange Lantern armies from his victims. And now the Orange Lantern Oath, and I'm not joking, it goes just like this. What's mine is mine, and mine and mine, and mine and mine and mine, not yours. Now, if you couldn't tell from that, Larfleeze is definitely a fun and interesting character, and I recommend checking out his one-shot Christmas special, which is pretty hilarious. On to the next corps, we have the Blue Lanterns, powered by the blue light of hope. The Blue Lantern Corps has been tasked with bringing hope to the desperate universe, to see it through the dark times that lie ahead. They are both the strongest and weakest of the Lanterns. The Blue Lantern Corps was founded by Ganthet and Sade, 2 former Guardians of the Universe. For daring to acknowledge the Blackest Night prophecy, they were banished from Oa. After their exile, they settled on the planet Odom to create the first Blue Lantern power ring, and eventually the Blue Lantern Corps itself. What's interesting about the Blue Lantern Corps is their protocol has the newest member select the next candidate for the Corps, which is kind of cool if you ask me. As for their oath, it goes like this. In fearful day, in raging night, with strong hearts full, our souls ignite. When all seems lost in the war of light, look to the stars, for hope burns bright. Next is the Indigo Corps, or more accurately, the Indigo Tribe. The Indigo Tribe was a mysterious group that had harnessed the power of the indigo light of compassion from the emotional spectrum. Their creation was traced to the Green Lantern Abensor during his service with the Green Lantern Corps. At some point, he came to the planet Nock that was being besieged by aggressive explorers that had enslaved the native inhabitants. They coated the indigo light on their weapons and realized that their attackers struck by it suddenly felt remorse as well as regret over all their actions. After this, Abensor decided to harness the indigo light of compassion Abensor did this once he learned of the Blackest Night prophecy. The Indigo tribe uses a staff as the lantern, but they also have indigo rings. Regarding their oath, it's in another language, but never fear, I've roughly translated it for you guys. In sorrowful day and misfortunate night, we help those who need our might. With the lantern power of Abensor, we rid your misery with compassion of might. Now again, that's just a rough translation. Moving along, we have the Violet Lanterns, or the Star Sapphire Corps. They use the violet light of love. Originally, there was only one Star Sapphire, and that was Carol Ferris. In the Silver Age of the comics, she was both a friend and foe to Hal Jordan. She was imbued with the power of the Star Sapphire, which made her mad with love. The power was given to her by the Cimmerians. When it was revealed by the prophecy in the Book of Oa that numerous Lantern Corps would emerge, it became apparent that the Star Sapphire Corps would be one of them. After one of the Cimmerians was possessed by a Star Sapphire gem, the race of females realized that the gems were simply too overpowering and unwielding to use. So the Cimmerians decided to learn from the Guardians of the Universe and refashion the gems into power rings and create a core. Unlike the gems, the wielders of the rings were aware of their actions and could control the impulses of the rings. In doing so, they changed the legacy of the Star Sapphire from being a single villain to a group of heroes. Their oath is as follows: for hearts long lost and full of fright, for those alone in blackest night, accept our rings and join our fight, love conquers all with violet light. And now we're down to our two last Lantern Corps, the second to last one being the Black Lanterns. The Black Lantern Corps is composed of reanimated bodies of former heroes, villains, and even normal people from all across the DC universe. They are powered from the corpse of the Anti-Monitor and led by the Black Hand. They have the power to raise the dead, so, as you guys may have guessed, their power is death. Necron, who's the embodiment of death and darkness, birthed the Black Lantern Corps into existence. On Earth, a villain called Black Hand became increasingly aware of the black power within him. Realizing what was required of him, Black Hand killed himself and rose from the dead as the herald of Necron's power. He made 4 black power rings that scattered through the universe to recruit the dead into the Black Lantern Corps, beginning the Blackest Night. Now, if all that sounds awesome, that's because it is. Zombie versions of superheroes are always great, especially the Black Lantern Batman. He looks awesome. Speaking of awesome, we have the Black Lantern Oath. The blackest night falls from the skies, the darkness grows as all light dies. We crave your hearts and your demise, by my black hand the dead shall rise. And finishing out our Lantern Corps is the White Lantern Corps. As you would expect, the White Lanterns are the opposite of the Black Lanterns, and the opposite of death is life, which is what the White Lanterns are all about. Their white energy constructs are powered by life itself. The White Lantern Corps was formed when Hal Jordan merged with the Entity. For those of you who don't know, the Entity is an ancient creature that is responsible for the creation of all life in the DC universe. Once the White Lantern Corps was formed, they went up against Necron and the Black Lantern Corps at the end of Blackest Night. The white light is the first light, and in essence, all the other colors of the emotional spectrum combine into one. So the user of the white ring can generate any color of the emotional spectrum and use the powers of each color. The white ring also allows the user to access the rings of any member of any of the other corps and observe these members. Basically what I'm saying is, if you're a White Lantern, you're a BAMF. What's most notable about the White Lantern Corps and
I haven't heard
White
anybody
Light is
say
it's
BAMF in
responsible
so
for bringing
long.
a bunch of heroes back to life who were previously dead pre-New 52, like Martian Manhunter, Aquaman, and Hawkman, just to name a few. And more recently, in the comics, Kal Rayner has become a White Lantern. But now you all want to know the White Lantern's oath, which goes like this. Brightest day and brightest night, let my ring shine the brightest light. When evil comes, I will join the fight. The power of the White Lanterns is the strongest might. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, I couldn't mention everything about each Lantern Corps, but I think everything I did mention is suffice and gives you a pretty good overview of all the Lantern Corps. But now it's time to give you guys some reading recommendations. You have Green Lantern Blackest Night, Green Lantern Brightest Day, Red Lanterns Volume 1, Blood and Rage, and Green Lantern New Guardians Volume 1, The Ring Bearer, just to name a few. And you buy a domain name from domain.com, you get the power to influence and control what people find when they search for you online. No domain extension will help you tell your story like a .com or .net domain name. Domain.com is affordable, reliable, and easy to use. The guys at domain.com gave Variants an awesome offer. Get 50% off domain.com's already affordable domain names and web hosting when you use the coupon code Variants at checkout. So when you think domain names, think domain.com. First up for Wednesday, September 17th, we have Thor God of Thunder issue 25. In this issue, Thor fights the Frost Giants. Next, we have Hulk Annual 1. Someone close to the Hulk dies. See what impact this will have on one of the most dangerous super beings on the planet. Here we have Batman, Superman, Futures, and One Shot. A new super being seeks out Batman. See who this creature is. And finally, we have Justice League, Futures, and One Shot. The mystery of the Martian Manhunter is finally revealed. Well, that brings another episode of Variant to a close, but do not fret, I will be back here next week. Until then, you can like our Facebook page to keep up with the show and all things comic related. You can also follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Eris_Quinones. But I will see you guys next week when I talk about all things comics. A new super being seeks out Batman. What's up, my comic comrades? Today we're continuing our complete origins series for the Absolute Universe with Absolute Wally West Flash. We did cover the first issue when it dropped back in March, but his full origin was revealed across the first 6 issues of the series, and this video will give you the whole story in one go. Also, let us know where Absolute Flash lands on your list of favorite Absolute Universe characters so far. Anyway, let's dive into Absolute Flash's origin with issue 1. Alright, so the issue starts off with Wally West having run to the desert and just stopped saying, "What have I done? This is all so messed up. I've ruined everything. I can't go back. Have to keep going. Keep running." When he finds out, he's utterly going to kill me. But what does it matter now? Everything is messed up. Everything is pointless now. I messed up so bad. As we turn the page and see Wally with lightning around him with Speed Force images of someone in pain behind him saying, "No, no, no," while he's holding his head, freaking out, continuing to say, "It's all going too fast. Just need to breathe. Wally, just like she taught you, breathe. Slow it down." The comic then brings us to 2 days ago as we see Wally walking on train tracks saying, "Do you know where you are? Do you know who you are? You're Wally West. You're 15 years old, and you're completely and totally alone." I knew it was only a matter of time. Things had been okay for a while, but I could feel it coming on again. It always starts in my stomach, like this terrible, low-level, uneasy feeling that begins to spread. And then I know it's starting again. The racing thoughts, obsessive overthinking. She used to catch it early. She could make me relax, help me calm down, but she's gone. It's just me now. I don't need anyone else anyway. In the end, we're all alone. Other people just mess everything up. It's just me. I have control. Total control. He then finally makes his way to a military base where the guards greet him saying, "This is a restricted area." He says, "Yeah, I have my pass here somewhere." One of the guards say, "You know you're not supposed to be out this late, kid. Your dad catches you, he'll have a fit." A voice from behind him then says, "At ease, I can escort the prisoner from here. Cut the kid some slack, Sergeant. We were all young once, weren't we?" As Wally says, "Thanks, Dr. Allen," telling us,
cartoons. Everyone's got their favourite, and if you grew up at any time in the last 30 years, there's a good chance your favourite aired on Cartoon Network. Since 1992, those little checkerboard squares have seen hundreds of cartoons, and some not cartoons, come and go. And while many of us have fond memories of the network in its heyday, back when they only showed good cartoons during the specific years of whenever you personally were the target demographic, few of us ever really know why it is our favourite childhood shows come to an end. With an audience too young to understand the complexities of viewing figures, merchandising contracts, and spicy drama between executives and creatives, cartoon cancellations don't often receive quite the same levels of scrutiny as shows aimed at adults. One day that show you like just isn't on the air anymore, and you simply have to accept it. So, to set that straight, I combed the entire Cartoon Network back catalogue to try and find the answer as to why each of these shows ended up ending. So join me as we explore the history of Cartoon Network cancellations.
Tired of boring sanitized feeds?
Now, before we begin, I do need to set a few ground rules because while we will be covering every Cartoon Network show, asterisk, we will not be covering every show that has ever been on Cartoon Network. And what I mean by that is that in the early days of Cartoon Network, the majority of its broadcasting was classic cartoons from the Hanna-Barbera library of 60s, 70s, and 80s shows. And there's no point talking about why those shows ended when they'd already finished decades before Cartoon Network even existed. So rule number one is that to be in this list, it has to be a show which had new episodes debut on Cartoon Network before any other channel. No reruns of retro Hanna-Barbera shows, so no Hong Kong Phooey, and no reruns of recent cartoons that aired on other stations originally, so no Shaolin Showdown. Now, in the UK and other territories, Shaolin Showdown did premiere on Cartoon Network, but in the US it had its first run on Kids WB, which brings us to rule number 2. This list is based specifically on programming from Cartoon Network USA, and for 3 good reasons. 1, it's realistically where most of the audience for this video will be from. 2, it's the region with the most readily available information about these shows. And 3, it's the audience that had the most impact on the fate of these shows. America is where Cartoon Network is based, and where the big decisions get made. Which tunes precious little Caleb in Dubuque, Iowa was watching probably had twice as much influence over what got picked up for a new season than what I was watching in the UK. Which is why Cheap in the Big City got cancelled, and why CN Real dragged on for so long. And hey, Caleb in Dubuque, Iowa, shout out if you are watching. But on the flip side of this is rule 3. If an international show debuts in the US on Cartoon Network, then it will be included in this list. So don't worry, all your flash animated Canadian.
Today's episode of Variant is brought to you by Lumosity. Today on Variant, I'm giving you guys the history of Robin, or Robins. Welcome to Variant, where we love Thomas. We're in that feeling of getting a single cut on wrapping paper with scissors and it sliding all the way through. I'm your host, Aris Quiñones.
Okay.
Now, one of the most requested history episodes for me to do has by far been a history of Batman's Robins episode over the years. So, since you guys wanted it and you waited ever so patiently, let's start talking about the most popular sidekick in comics. There's been many different Robins over the years, 5 to be exact, or 6 if you want to count Carrie Kelly, even though her character wasn't shaded in the Batman and DC universe. But in one of the most popular Batman stories of all time, The Dark Knight Returns. So since that story is so well known,
That whole team, every time you guys reboot me, just chase me.
there's only one way to do this right, and that's starting from the very beginning with the first Robin, working our way down to the current Robin. Robin was created by Bob Kane, Bill Finger, and Jerry Robinson, and first appeared in Detective Comics issue 38. The original purpose and reason for Robin's creation was to attract younger readership, and the idea worked. Robin did attract more readership, and the Batman-related comic book sales doubled. The first person to don the yellow cape was Dick Grayson, and as I just said, Detective Comics issue 38. Son of John and Mary Grayson, circus acrobats, Dick Grayson was born into his parents' famous circus act, the Flying Graysons, who were well known for performing without the safety of a net. While preparing for a performance, Dick overhears 2 gangsters attempting to extort protection money from the circus owner. The owner refuses, so the gangsters sabotage the trapeze wires. During the performance, the trapeze Dick's parents are swinging on snaps, sending them to their deaths. Before he goes to the police, Batman appears to him and warns him that the 2 gangsters work for Tony Zuko, a powerful crime boss, and that by revealing his knowledge, it could lead to his death. So the 2 work together to bring down Zuko. Batman, seeing a little of himself himself in the young boy revealed that he was the very same man who had taken him in, Bruce Wayne. Batman then decided he would train the young lord to become his sidekick, teaching him the skills of fighting and detective work. Dick Grayson learned very quickly and joined Batman on the streets of Gotham as Robin, the Boy Wonder. Eventually, Dick Grayson became the founder and leader of the Teen Titans, a group of teen sidekicks just like himself. He then eventually left Batman's side and the Teen Titans, dropping the Robin mantle altogether, becoming one of my favorite characters, Nightwing. The second Robin was Jason Todd. He first became Robin in Batman issue 366, but that was later changed as Crisis on Infinite Earths redid a lot of DC's comic continuity, and of course continuity has changed again with DC's New 52, which has actually affected all the Robin's original continuity a bit, but I'll get into that later. As for how Jason Todd became Robin, well, it goes a little something like this. He had a hard life, his father left him, and his mother died of illness. His neighborhood was full of crime, and Jason lived alone in his mother's apartment, fending for himself with his knowledge of the streets, like a real OG. Until one fateful night in Crime Alley, Jason tried to steal tires off the Batmobile, and was caught just a coincidence, as he was aware of the massive void in his life that Dick Grayson filled and had suddenly opened up once again. So after 6 months of training, Jason Todd became the second Robin. But it was soon clear to Batman that Jason Todd was no Dick Grayson. Not only did Jason Todd lack the acrobatic skills of his predecessor, but he had much more rage. The new Boy Wonder was reckless and disobedient, going so far as to use a gun. Bruce decided to pull Jason out of his duties as Robin. During this time, Jason discovered that Catherine Todd was not his mother at all, and set off to find his real mother, Sheila Haywood. Upon finding her, Jason found out she was being blackmailed by the Joker and betrayed her son to the criminal in order to get out of it. Jason was being savagely by the Joker with a crowbar. Joker then tied up his mother and left them in a warehouse wired to explode. Batman raced to the rescue as fast as he could, but he was too late and Jason Todd was dead. What's funny though is the only reason Jason Todd was killed is because of a poll DC made on whether Jason Todd should live or die, and the fans voted he should die. For years he remained dead, but eventually Jason Todd returned from the grave, as all comic book characters tend to do, and became the Red Hood. But before I get into the third Robin, let's take a look at our lovely sponsor. The layer's awkward. I changed my clothes. Whatever. Get over it. Do you want to improve your brain performance and live a better life?
You didn't even know you joined.
No, I was waiting for you. We'll start talking to my friends as Joe Swanson for like an hour.
What'd you say?
Was way ahead of its time, and I mean that both as
I was talking to my friends as Joe Swanson for about an hour.
You're kind of cutting out. I heard Joe Swanson though.
Hold on, let me call you on Discord.
Mm-hmm.